Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tech Tactics Live. It's episode 94, and tonight we're going to be talking about the E3 third generation Cayenne, which covers 2019 to 2025. We want to make sure we recognize and thank Pirelli, our sponsor. And for those of you that are watching us live tonight, first of all, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I see that we have some of our regulars. I see Mark, I see Lance online, and a newbie, we have Jen Force, who's the first time on Tech Tactics Live. And so if you're watching live tonight, you can put in any questions that you might have with regards to a Cayenne right online, and I'll try to get to them during the show. We have 1 hour to spend with you, live question and answers. We're going to go over models that are available. We're going to go through things to look for when you're buying, as well as popular options. And back as a guest, we have Skylar Worthington from Porsche Hunt Valley, their service manager there, so welcome back.
Thanks, man.
And we also have Alex Escobar. We have a little announcement on him. I'll let you share that later.
Yeah, just want to take a minute to congratulate Alex. He recently passed his gold technician test, so shout out to Alex. That's a very difficult thing to do. Congratulations, buddy.
Congratulations, Alex. And again, tonight, those of you that are watching, you'll learn a little bit from Alex of all things about the 2019 to 2025 Cayenne. First and foremost, these cars are incredible. This is the third generation of the Cayenne. I'm a E1 first generation Cayenne owner. And I think we'll go through, if you're watching this because you're deciding whether or not you want to buy a Cayenne of this era, we want to sort of kind of give you the most information possible so you can make the right decision. It's not really a question of, is this a quote unquote good car? Yep. It's how can you buy the right car?
Yeah, it's exactly it. You know, we want to make sure you have a good ownership experience, make sure that you have a long, happy, healthy relationship with the car, and that starts with, you know, being an informed buyer. You know, making sure you know understand what you're getting into, and you can select the right car.
Yeah, and I think there's two types of buyers that really kind of come into a Cayenne. One that is already familiar with a Cayenne, like myself, that's an E1, E2, or maybe they're coming from a 911 and need a bigger Porsche. They kind of get the sort of ethos of what Porsche is about and know what to expect when they climb into a Cayenne. And then there are those, which I think Porsche refers to as a conquest customer, where they're coming from a different brand, where you might be coming from a Tahoe or a Land Cruiser or an X5. And sometimes I feel like, and family and friends also ask me about this and they want to get into the Porsche world. And I think with the Conquest folks, you really have to understand what they value in a car and then sort of set their expectations. I think that's what we're going to really try to focus on, is making sure you get into the right Cayenne that fits your expectations. Does that sound fair?
Exactly right.
All right, so if you have questions and you're watching live, then throw them in here. But we're going to go through the models, starting with 2019. Right off the bat, you're looking at the Cayenne, and I hate to call it the base, but it is kind of the lower rung Cayenne. But even a base Cayenne, you're looking at a 3-liter turbocharged V6 motor producing 335 horsepower, 0 to 60, I think still in like 6 seconds, which is like sports car territory of not long ago.
Yeah, absolutely. E3 was one of the first ones that the standard Cayenne genuinely feels peppy. Yeah. And if you look at, like you mentioned, Conquest, people cross-shopping. For reference, that's comparable to BMW's X5 xDrive 40, which is their upgraded engine option. They do sell a lower performance one, is equivalent to our, you know, their upgrade is equivalent to our base.
Okay. And also, just because we say base, don't expect that it's going to be a bare bones car too, because I think a lot of the base Cayennes have a lot of the great options that you're used to at this price point. So yeah. Cayenne S, that's when you get a little bit, not a little bit, quite a bit more horsepower.
Quite a bit more power.
430 or so?
435. Depending on the model, you're getting either the twin turbo V6 or moving into the V8. Okay.
And then Cayenne E hybrids. This is the plug-in hybrid model with a 3-liter turbocharged V6 plus an electric motor for a combined 455 horsepower. No slouch there.
Yep. Hybrid does not necessarily mean slow.
Yeah. And then, of course, the top dog of the models in 19 would be the Cayenne Turbo, the 4-liter twin-turbo V8. That's that snarl of a V8, producing 541 horsepower.
Yeah, she's a gem.
Yeah. So you have your choices in that lineup of 2019. When you go to 2020, the newer body style that honestly I didn't get when you started seeing them with, as you mentioned, BMW and Grand Coupes and stuff like that. So the Cayenne Coupe body style came out that year with that model range. And then you also add in the Cayenne Turbo SE Hybrid. Tell me a little bit about that one. I know that's big horsepower.
Yeah, so Turbo SE Hybrid is the Cayenne Turbo, but much like the standard E Hybrid, we supplement the gasoline motor with an electric drive augmentation. So unlike a lot of manufacturers that when you go to a hybrid, they give you a smaller engine and the hybrid makes up the power difference, we just give you more.
Okay. And more does it, 670 horsepower. It's funny because I think a lot of people, when they see the hybrid designation on a Turbo SE Hybrid, they think it's more of an economical car. But yeah, press the throttle and you know it's not.
Yep, they roll up, they're quick.
All right, so in 2021, 2022, it's sort of the last of the E3 first generation within the E3. The GTS model returns with that oh-so-lovable V8 sound.
So lovable V8, oh-so-lovable sport exhaust. Yeah, GTS is good. That's my personal favorite.
I agree with you there. And then in 2023 up till current 2025, that's the latest generation of the E3, the facelift. Again, the V8. What else do we need to know about that?
Yeah, so facelift car, V8 returned for the S, so no more Turbo 6 for the S. They went to the V8. Other than that, the powertrains are largely a carryover. No more turbo. Turbo has been replaced by Turbo SE Hybrid. With that model, we also have Turbo GT sprinkled in there as well, which we can get into a little bit. That's a whole nother rocket ship. A couple little design. It's a pretty substantial interior overhaul, pretty substantial tech overhaul is what you're getting with that, more so than a powertrain overhaul.
Yeah. And I would also say the E3 generation, if you're comparing it, most people are probably comparing it to an E2. They're probably not comparing it to an E1 because they're so much older. But the overall design of the E3, I think, is much sleeker, more sporty. But surprisingly, you don't give up the interior space. I find that even more comfortable, and even in the back seats with the adjustable rear seats that you can choose between. Do you want more legroom in the rear seats, or do you want more cargo area, which is kind of a nice feature there. All right, so we have a lot to cover, and like I said, we have about an hour. I know there are questions popping up here, but we're going to jump into things to look out for. And before we get into things to look out for, can I just touch upon these cars being 2019 to current? These are prime candidates to be bought with a CPO. What are your thoughts on CPO? Certified pre-owned.
Yeah, certified pre-owned is the gold standard as far as out of new car warranty coverage. There's always a lot of talk of extended warranties. Certified pre-owned is the best extended warranty you can get by a large margin. On a Porsche, it's going to be 2 years additional on your base 4-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, or from 2 years from when you buy the car if the base warranty's out. It's also unlimited mileage, which is fabulous for people that put a lot of miles on the car.
And is that transferable? Like if you say you want to sell the car?
Fully transferable to the next owner, so it's a pretty big value add. You can do an additional year at an additional cost when you buy the car. Fully recommended. It protects you. These cars, they can have some expensive hiccups here and there, and it's good to be covered.
Yeah, I firmly believe in CPO and adding that extra warranty year if you have that option available to you. These cars are literally like rolling computers now. They're so advanced, but that also means that if something goes wrong, as a service manager, you see these invoices, and the price of a CPO warranty versus the price of a potential invoice. You won't regret getting a CPO, I can promise you. Yeah. There are people out there that are hunting for a bargain, and we were talking with Manny, and thank you to Damon and Manny who are behind the scenes making all this happen. We were talking about earlier where sometimes people want to hunt for a good deal, and they find a a Cayenne of this year, maybe not at a Porsche lot, maybe at some other corner used car dealer, and it's priced $10,000 below something that might be at a Porsche dealership, and you might be attracted to it. But the warning I will share with you is that car either is out of warranty or is almost to be out of warranty.
Yep.
And then some of these shops offer a third-party warranty. It's not a CPO. They say the car has a warranty, but it's a third-party warranty. What's your warning on cars with a quote-unquote third-party warranty?
Just read it carefully, see exactly what's covered. You might be surprised what is not covered with some of those. Hoses are a pretty common one. Some of them will cover, a lot of them will not cover oil leaks, or they will not on a Porsche. If you don't know, most hardware on the engine is one use only. Most of your third-party warranties will not cover replacement hardware, so you might be on the bill for quite literally hundreds of dollars of bolts required for the repair.
Oh, okay.
So read it very carefully. Again, some coverage is better than nothing. As you and I were talking, best option, go to where you plan on servicing the car. Ask them if that's something that they work with. Ask that if that's, if they have a preferred vendor, if that's the route you want to go.
Yeah, because if the people that you're taking the car to don't accept that third-party warranty, it's like you don't have the warranty.
Exactly.
So yeah, they can be a very good resource for you. So let's jump into things to look out for. Overall, what are your thoughts on the engines on this era car?
They're good. There's a couple issues you need to watch out for. Unfortunately, those couple issues can get pretty expensive. But besides a few, 3-4 odd things, they're as a whole pretty solid. Like I said, this is the first one that the standard Cayenne genuinely doesn't feel underpowered. It feels very, very appreciable. It feels like a car that justifies the price point they put it at.
And we're being pretty nitpicky here. We want you to kind of be full disclosure as you're getting into this. So don't be scared by it, but know that you're learning a little bit of something so that you can ask for records of the cars that you're buying from, and ask the right questions. But it's an
expensive car. You should be nitpicky.
No, you're right. And so we're going to go to Alex, and he's going to be talking about the cooling system in these cars.
Cooling system.
Cooling system. There's been a couple issues with that. The V8 is probably the worst offender.
Right.
Water pumps, coolant regulators, thermostats, and then just some of the small plastic coolant lines will be an issue. The water pump on this model is vacuum operated, so it has a sleeve that opens and closes with vacuum pressure to help the car warm up quicker. When the water pump starts to fail, you will get coolant past that sleeve, and you'll get coolant ingress into the vacuum system. Which can manifest as low boost codes, as I've seen, probably the most common.
What he's discussing is coolant migration. So what happens is when the pump fails, coolant gets in the vacuum lines, and in some cases you can see it seeping out of some of the solenoids that are right here on the side for that coolant pump solenoids. Also another coolant failure point on this, which we had a light.
I'm gonna get carts.
Would be the control valve located on this side. You also see it weep out of there as well. This is a V6 model, but they are the V8 models that have the water pumps that you will have to put the whole front end into service mode, and you'd have to remove the bumper, the headlamps, remove the radiator, condenser, slide that out the way to actually replace the cooling pumps, water pumps. As you can see right here, there is a little control valve right in there. Sometimes you can see it seep out of there. Coolant, that would indicate that there is coolant in the vacuum lines and that control valve is faulty. I know you mentioned thermostats, right? Mm-hmm. There is a recall on the V8s that have the thermostats that are getting replaced now.
Yeah, some of the V8s, it's worth checking, make sure that's been done. It's not all of the V8s. It is a narrow window of the cars, but it's worth checking into.
Is there a certain maintenance schedule for the coolant pump to be replaced, or is it just when it starts to leak?
Just when it fails. And like he said, sometimes you will get a lack of power. The turbo won't be spooling up how it's supposed to because there is a vacuum line that runs from the coolant system. The coolant system and the vacuum system are tied in together, and it won't. There'll be debris in that vacuum line that won't allow it to spool up how it's supposed to. The wastegate won't open and close.
It'll either block the flow of the air, or it can short the solenoid valves out. The solenoids are made into that. They call it a like a hose. It's basically like a wiring harness, but for vacuum. If you think is a good way to describe it. It has all the solenoids and everything made into it. If those solenoids get shorted out, they won't function properly. So the wastegates on the turbos will not function properly, which can manifest. You get out, you floor it, especially the V8 models. They're pretty powerful cars. If you floor it and it just feels a little underwhelming, that's a pretty telltale sign that something is definitely not right. That's probably the biggest offender of that.
Yeah, and the right repair would be replacing all of the solenoids, all of the cooling vacuum lines, the cooling pump as well, and if directional control valve has went out as well as that.
Yeah.
You can't just replace the cooling pump, as there's already debris inside of the vacuum lines.
Yeah, once the vacuum lines are contaminated, they need to be replaced.
Yep. How long does it take? Because I heard you say everything except the base model, you have to take this front end off.
Right.
How many hours does it take to?
I believe, you could correct me if I'm wrong, it is...
It's a lot.
It's like 20 hours.
Yeah, it's a solid 2 or 3 full days of work. It's a lot.
So, if you're in an unfortunate position, you're replacing coolant pump. You're probably doing some other stuff.
Right.
While you're in there.
Be prepared. Yeah, it may not just be the coolant pump. It may have to be the vacuum lines, the solenoids, and other.
And a lot of that stuff is also, if you're doing one, you've already spent the labor to get it all apart. At that point, in for a penny, in for a pound. It's silly not to kind of replace everything. I know it sounds ridiculous to replace perfectly good parts, but like the coolant regulator is right behind the water pump. You have to remove the water pump to gain access to the coolant regulator.
On the V8, yes.
On the V8. So if you're replacing the water pump, plan to do a thermostat. It's right there. It's not a whole lot more money. It's minimal amount of labor more to replace it versus if it fails 20,000 miles later, you're doing the whole job over again.
And this is something any Porsche dealer will recommend or advise you of. I
would be surprised if they wouldn't.
Right.
Because it'd be a shame not to
get
that replaced.
On some of the V6s, you won't have to do all that work to put it into the service mode. They're a lot easier to do, but I would say it's mainly on the V8s.
Yeah, so the base V6, that's not as big of a concern with.
Right.
But
extensive labor.
On the V8, definitely be mindful of that.
So if you're buying one that's not CPO, that pre-purchase inspection is super critical for this.
Pre-purchase inspection, and consider some form of a warranty that would cover that.
Yeah.
Because it's an expensive repair.
20 hours, Skylar? Seriously?
20 hours.
Wow.
Seen it with my own eyes.
And that, again, as they said, and as we said earlier, CPO is the way to go in case. Like, I look at a 2019 car and I think, oh, that's a pretty new car. But that's, a 6-year-old car. 7-year-old car. And it's going to be, it's going to have potentially these issues. So not only would I want a CPO car, but I would also want a pre-purchase inspection by someone like you or someone by Alex, because you know where to look.
Yeah,
as a buyer, like sometimes our eyes are so glossed over at how happy we are at the midnight blue. Someone I think was saying how beautiful it is, and you're not looking at the details. But someone trained like you and like Alex can, if you see that stuff up front, man, that can save so much headache and thousands of dollars in a purchase of a car. So that was I'm gonna be honest, that was a tough pill to swallow, but that's just to let you all know that when you're watching, this is the kind of stuff you're gonna look for. You wanna buy the right Cayenne, and something like the cooling system might sound very innocent and think you can fix it with just a couple of hours and tools.
Yeah.
It could be a very complicated, or it is a complicated process, and you need to know that. Next, we talk about the oil filter housing. Let's see what Alex had to say about that.
We do have a service bulletin out for the oil filter housing. On the early ones that released, the seal on the oil filter housing will leak. That is located right here, as you can see. The oil filter's right here. And if you're looking to buy one of these used, you can look in that little area right there. And if you see any oil in that area right there, it could indicate that the seal is faulty and may need to be replaced.
So how many hours is it to do like that oil seal?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
We have a TSB.
Is it a major?
It's not insignificant. The intake manifold has to come off, but it's nothing compared to the water pump.
Oh, okay. Let's see. We had a question from Gen Force 3. The 20 hours, does that include reassembly or just taking it apart?
No, that's disassembly, reassembly.
Okay, that's good. Woo, we almost got into 40 hours there real quick.
I'm sure my techs would like that.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, next we have, I think you can share a little bit of information before we go to the video with Alex. And this has to do with rocker arms and cam lobes.
Yeah, so the way most modern engines are built, the camshaft does not push directly down onto the valve. The camshaft pushes onto a small finger follower, rocker arm, which thus pushes it down onto the valve. We have seen some issues where we'll get wear on those camshaft lobes and on that finger follower, which will, you'll get a noise. You can start to get misfires, things like that, because the camshaft lobe is wearing away, the metal is wearing away, thus not opening the valve at the right time or far enough. Additionally, we've seen a few of them that the needle bearing inside of that little finger follower, it mounts at one side and the cam pushes on the other. We've seen issues where those needle bearings can fail, and then the little bearing pieces go into the internal of the motor. When the bearing fails, the rocker just kind of free to do its thing, so thus the valve is not actuated and controlled properly, which will cause misfire.
Is that a V6 problem, a V8 problem, or both?
Both.
It can be both.
Yeah, I've seen it on both.
Okay, and as a buyer, like if this is happening, would you see or know it because there's a check engine light, or is there a way to scan?
Check engine light would be the first thing.
Okay.
It'll have misfire codes.
Misfire
the
codes.
first things. When it gets bad, you'll start to get noise. You'll start to get like a tapping noise from the motor, from like the top end of the motor. But misfires are generally the first culprit, the first sign of it.
Okay. Well, here's what Alex had to say.
On the V8 models, if you drive your Cayenne GTS Turbo GT Spirited, sometimes the possibility of the rockers failing is there. You will hear it tapping fairly loud.
We've seen one or two of them that the roller bearing inside of the needle bearings inside of the roller on the rocker has failed, and the needles will come out of it, which actually conveniently we have a motor over here pulled apart, and I can show you what those look like.
Yep.
I've also seen a couple of them where the cam lobes will start to wear. That was on a 3-liter V6 like this one. So just if you hear any noise, like loud tapping noise, they're direct injected. They're a little noisy, but it's kind of a light tap 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 tap. But if you hear something that sounds a little bit more authoritative than that, be mindful. Oil analysis is a really good idea for that. That'll pick up any metal wear in the oil.
Also, to add on, if you hear, like he's saying, that the tap 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 and there's a misfire present, that could indicate that the lifter could be bad. So
if you're starting to get a misfire, that is a potential cause of a misfire with this generation car. We've seen a handful of them with that.
And the misfire would trigger a check engine.
Right.
Check engine light. A lot of times it'll be flashing check engine. You'll feel it. It won't be running right. If you want, I can actually. This Macan has a similar motor. Conveniently, we happen to have one with the motor out of it. These rollers right here, if you get down on the side here, you can see
right there, you can see the needle bearings. So what happens is when it fails, those pop out, and
then that roller is not supported, which can cause it to kind of bounce up and down on its journal. Additionally, that causes the valve not to open as far as it should, limiting airflow, and that's what causes the misfire.
Wow.
And unfortunately, to access this, to get the valve cover off of these motors, you do have to remove the motor like this to gain access to it. All the timing stuff's on the rear, and there's just simply not enough room to get it off with it in the chassis. So it is a pretty involved repair, unfortunately.
Wow, that is a pretty serious repair. Certainly not your average DIY project.
Not a driveway fix.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 of the 3 engine things to look out for seem to be pretty serious. But the good news is we're done talking about engines.
Yep.
And now we're going to be talking about transmissions. And overall, I think you were talking about PDKs and your opinions on those.
Yep, PDK is fabulous. Cayenne actually does not use PDK. Cayennes are all torque converters,
right.
Yep, so these have the 8-speed automatic. It is extremely robust. It's very, very reliable. That is my personal favorite transmission. I own 4 cars with the same transmission in it. They're fabulous. I have nothing but good to say about that. It's kind of expensive to service because the filter is built into the transmission pan, but the service interval is either 120 or 160,000 miles depending on the model, so it's not something that's done frequently.
Yeah, and I think we love PDKs, but I think the 8-speed transmissions and the Cayennes are more robust. That's why they have the higher towing capacity.
Yeah, it can tow better. It shifts very, very quickly. Upshifts and stuff from a sportiness perspective. It's it's almost as good for a big SUV. It's very appropriate. They did a great job selecting that.
Okay. Well, the first thing that you and Alex were sharing, what to look out for with regards to transmission, has to do with the transfer case.
I haven't really seen any transfer case issues.
No, I think they definitely patched that up on this release of the E3. No transfer case issues. Stay up to the service on it. I think it'll be good.
So far we're getting the clear with transfer case.
Clear for transfer case.
It is noteworthy when you service the transfer case on these, they have a temperature sensor that you do have to replace. So servicing the transfer case on this model is a little bit more involved than the prior models.
But that's part of the servicing is
Yep.
That's good. If you don't take it to the dealer, just make sure that whoever you're taking it to is.
Yeah, or if you're doing it yourself, or if you're taking it to someone else, just make sure there's a temperature sensor that has to be replaced as part of the transfer case service.
As well as the calibration you have to run through.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not simply just a drain and refill. This is a little bit more involved.
You said it earlier, rolling computer.
Rolling computer. Fluid changes. There's a little bit of advice I think you and Alex wanted to share as well on that.
Is it true they call for 160,000 mile fluid changes?
Yep. So this is it's the common ZF 8-speed auto that a lot of manufacturers use, and you'll see maintenance schedules anywhere from 120 to a lifetime on that. It's a really robust unit. In my opinion, it's probably the best torque converter automatic out there. Real smooth, crisp shifts. It's just a good unit all around. Does everything really, really well. Haven't really seen any issues out of the transmission on these. It's very, very reliable.
Yeah, very reliable. As you said earlier, the Tiptronic is the right choice. I think the right choice for the Cayenne. And I do tow occasionally with my older Cayenne, but I know members that have the newer ones that they tow some serious trailers, and they love it. Does very well.
They tow great.
All right, let's see. Let's get into brakes. Of course, Porsches are known to have good brakes, and Cayennes are no exception. The brakes that I really love, you and Alex are going to get into, and these are the ones that are the white calipers, which I don't think am I correct? Like they stopped doing the Porsche surface-coated brakes.
They've thinned it down a lot. I think you can still get it on some of the EVs, but I've not seen it on Cayenne. That's a sales question.
Yeah.
So I'm just speaking from experience of seeing them
I'm
come
pretty
in.
sure it's pretty rare now, but these are the ones that they're not ceramics, they're not steel, but the rotors are surface-coated. I think it was tungsten or something like that.
Tungsten carbide.
Yeah, and I think 50 to 70% less brake dust. We always complain about how dusty brakes are on a Porsche if you have steel brakes. Here's what you and Alex had to say about the PSCB, Porsche Surface Coated Brakes, my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Porsche surface coated brakes, the PSCB. It is
PSCB, yeah. Pretty easy to identify. They have nice, pretty white calipers. As they're broken in, the rotors get this really nice mirrored look to them. Very, very low dust output, much longer service life than your traditional iron brakes. would be they are pretty expensive to replace, not as bad as PCCB, the carbon ceramic brakes, but they are substantially more expensive than your normal iron brakes would be. They're also extremely noisy. They've actually stopped using them as of this point due to varying issues, but they are very, very, very noisy. The noise can be mitigated by keeping up with cleaning them. More brake pedal pressure is the biggest thing they tell us to do. But yeah, be mindful if the car has the white calipers and has the shiny rotors, it's probably going to have noisy brakes.
And is it susceptible to chipping, like the ceramics? We've always been told when you change wheels with ceramics, you have to be very careful not to chip the rotor. Is that the same thing with
not that I'm
surface?
aware of. No, because the surface coated, it's a tungsten carbide. It's extremely hard. So I've not heard of anything with it. I've not seen anything with it. Not a whole lot of cars had it, so it's not particularly common. But the brakes do perform well. That you do get a good long life out of them. But just the noise is the number one complaint with
and
those.
The only way to properly check it would be to use a micrometer to measure.
So you would use a special tool.
If you're familiar with what a paint thickness meter is, how it works, we have a tool that works pretty much the same way because you measure the thickness of that tungsten coating in microns.
Now I learned something by watching that video. I have had, and I just said I love the Porsche surface coated brakes, but the reality is I've had very limited experience with them. I've driven a car with them, not a whole lot of seat time in them. I love the mirror finish on the rotors. I love how they're low dust. I didn't realize that they're noisy.
They're noisy. They had some TSBs on early ones, and they updated the brakes. The updated ones are better, but they are still it is noteworthy that they are more noisy than the standard brakes.
Oh, so if you find a Cayenne with them, make sure it's at an acceptable noise level for you.
Yep.
You go steel brakes, they're all going to stop well at steel brakes. Steel brakes are going to be quite dusty. You go to PSCBs, it's going to be clean, but now I hear they might be noisy. The ceramic brakes are the ultimate brakes. However, it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. Like later on, if hopefully you don't damage them, but if you wear them out, because you drive some crazy level, at some point, if you have to replace the ceramic brakes on a Cayenne, they go how much?
I have not had to look them up on a Cayenne. The last 911 I had to price them for, they're probably similar. The last 911, I think they were $12,000 a rotor.
$12,000 a rotor. So again, if you find a Cayenne out there that has ceramic brakes, make sure that you have them inspected, because you don't want to be the one caught holding the hot potato where you have to fix or replace. Yeah,
and if you take it for a PPI, a Porsche dealer, we have a special tool that measures the carbon content in the rotors. That's the only way to measure them. Some manufacturers, you weigh them. Ours has a special tool, so it does need to go to a place that is equipped for measuring those.
I think that tip alone was worth you watching this video, because they're so beautiful. The car stops, you don't think about it, but a year down the road, or even 5 years down the road, you then realize you have to spend that much money for brakes. It's better that you know now, right? So that's the whole idea. Electrical systems, not a whole lot in terms of what to look out for, but you and Alex talk about the lithium-ion battery.
Lithium battery. Now, speaking of batteries, though, is worth mentioning the early generations of this third generation Cayenne, so 19 to 23 or so. Those cars used a lithium 12-volt battery. That battery has been fairly troublesome over time. It's not like lithium batteries don't function the same way a normal lead-acid battery does. If you look at what's called a battery curve, lead-acid batteries have like a nice kind of slope of voltage down, voltage down, voltage down until they're dead. Lithium batteries are pretty much a plateau until they drop off. So what will happen is it'll be perfectly fine, won't start. And then they're very difficult to get a jump to them. If you let that battery discharge to a certain rate, it has a contactor inside that'll open to prevent a thermal event, and it will never close. You have to replace the battery. So if it has a deep discharge, you will destroy the battery. Those batteries are very, very expensive. You know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Obviously, it varies based on price of lithium at the time, but I've seen $4,000 for a battery before. So be very mindful of that. If you have one of these and you don't drive it every day, put it on a battery maintainer. Make sure you have like one of the good C-Tech ones that's rated for lithium batteries. Be mindful of that on these early third generation Cayennes.
And is retrofitting a standard AGM battery an option? Or once you have lithium, do you have to use lithium?
I think you can retrofit an AGM. You'd have to code it through the gateway, make sure the coding is set to the battery that you're putting in the car. Same thing goes if you are replacing the lithium ion one, you have to code it to the gateway, let it know that you're doing a battery change, that way the car is happy.
Yeah, I've seen a lithium to AGM retrofit been done once. So it is possible. These cars are still pretty new. Most of them have been under warranty. So I don't think that's something a lot of people have experimented with as of yet on them.
Do you know the CPO warranty covers the lithium battery?
CPO does not, but I think it is under an emissions warranty because whenever it fails, that causes the start-stop not to work, which causes the car to make more emissions.
Okay.
So you can get it covered under the emissions warranty. But CPO does not cover a battery. They can consider wear and tear.
So Scott, how long do lithium-ion batteries last, typically?
Typical lifespan, I mean, they say up to 10 years.
Oh.
Keywords on up to.
Up to?
I would say 7 to 10 is probably acceptable.
Okay.
These cars those early ones are getting to the point where that is a consideration. If it's still on the original battery, you need to be mindful.
Yeah.
On the lead acid batteries, we generally recommend people replace them 5-6 years because they do degrade over time. Lithium is a little bit more robust, but it's not going to last 20 years.
So if you're looking at a used one and you look through the paperwork or some of the records and you see that a lithium-ion battery has been replaced recently, that would be a check in the plus side because someone paid a big bill for that one.
That is a pro.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about suspension. We want to talk about rear axle steering, PDCC, and air suspension. Here's what you guys had to say with rear axle steering.
So in this generation, we also saw rear axle steering.
Yeah, rear axle steering.
What exactly is that?
So just like the front axle of the car turns like everyone's used to, on our cars with rear axle steer, the rear does the same thing, albeit not as much less degrees of rotation. I think it's around 2.5 degrees of rear axle steer. At slow speeds, it turns against what the steering input is. At higher speeds, it turns with the steering input. So what that does is kind of artificially lengthen and shorten the wheelbase, gives you the benefit of making the car very nimble at low speeds, like parking lots are a really good example, makes the car very easy to get in and out of parking spaces. But at high speeds, higher speed corners makes the car feel very, very planted.
Any issues?
No issues. Great handling though from the rear axle steering. Make sure you have a good set of tires for sure. As you may have some worn tires, maybe when you're turning in a parking lot, it may slide out a little bit more than it has to, but no issues on that. I haven't seen.
Very reliable.
Odds are you probably won't feel. You can't turn it off, I don't think, right?
No.
So you won't even feel it until you get into a car that
depends
doesn't
who you
have it.
are. I think.
Yeah, if someone tells you it has it and you're looking for it, you can notice it.
Right.
If you just hop in a car and drive it, it's pretty seamless. It's really, if you're not told and you're not looking for it, it's not really until you drive another car without it that you notice it.
Yep. I agree.
So rear axle steering for me, as an enthusiast, I think if you find a Cayenne that has it, like it's a must-have option because it just really brings out the sporting nature of a Cayenne. If you're coming from a Tahoe Suburban or a run-of-the-mill SUV, you probably won't notice it as much.
Yep.
But if it already has it, that's a big plus for me.
Big plus.
Yeah. We have a question here, if you don't mind. I'm going to just kind of go backwards a little bit here. We have a question from Gen Force 3. After talking about the ceramics and scaring him, he said, can you retrofit steel rotors to avoid that 12K per rotor?
Very common with the sports cars. A lot of guys that track the cars frequently with their GT cars will remove the PCCBs and put standard brakes on them. I've not personally looked into it, but I would imagine that someone makes a conversion. I know AP brakes, AP rotors, a really common one. I'm sure, would be surprised if someone didn't make one. Just nothing I've personally looked for.
Okay, so it is certainly an option to consider if you want to go to steel brakes.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about PDCC. What is PDCC?
Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control.
Okay, and this is like their stability, right?
A lot goes into PDCC.
Okay, well, let's see what you guys had to say about PDCC.
So what PDCC does, if you're familiar with what a sway bar is on a car, PDCC essentially replaces that sway bar with a hydraulic system. Its job is to actively apply pressure into and out of the corners of the car to make the car, to hydraulically force the car to stay level. Its job is to resist that cornering roll. PDCC does a really good job of making the car handle very flat at high speeds. If you're not taking your Cayenne to the racetrack or you're not going off-road with it, personal opinion, it's not something you really need to be that hung up on. You don't really notice it a whole lot in day-to-day use, day-to-day traffic. If you do go off-road with it, it will allow a lot more axle flex. So that is something nice to be aware of. And again, if you are going to do spirited driving with the car, it will make the car corner a lot flatter. But if it's just a day-to-day car, it's not really something you need to be terribly concerned with.
What about repair?
And if you were to have any failure, or if there were be any, let's say, electrical faults, it would indicate a fault in the instrument cluster.
You'll get a chassis system error.
Yep.
It does add some additional maintenance because it does have a hydraulic fluid that needs to be serviced periodically, so that is something to consider with it. Just if you are looking at a car that does have it, just make sure it's been serviced.
It also uses a 48-volt system.
Yeah, these use a 48-volt system.
Okay.
Those had the
those are
hydraulic.
second generation's hydraulic.
Second generation have hydraulic. These have the 48-volt system, which uses, I guess it would be kind of like a hybrid system for them. You would basically receive a fault if there would be anything wrong with it. There won't be no fluid leaks. It would still work, but you would have a fault indicating that there's maybe like a short or something going on with the wires or
someone who's thinking, does that mean that it's a different battery it uses, or is the same 12-volt battery?
It runs off of the same 12-volt battery. There's a converter there that converts from
12 to
48 volts.
Okay, so from that point, that's not any added complexity.
Again, just underlining CPO is a good thing. I mean, it's fantastic what that option or what that does for the driving experience, but as you can tell, just talking about how complex it is. And should something happen, having that under warranty is what you want, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, next let's talk about air suspension.
Air suspension, any difference between this one and the second generation as far as
I think they did switch up the struts, how they work with the dampening and stuff. But besides that, and basically still the Porsche air suspension, I haven't seen many failure on those, but I have seen firsthand the struts just sometimes they just stop working.
Fail.
Yeah.
And you know, it's rubber seals, it's tiny O-rings. Sometimes things do just fail. Systems like that, you know, it's under a lot of weight. Once you get a pinhole quickly turns into a large hole because it's supporting the whole weight of the vehicle. So they really won't give you any warning, unfortunately.
And if you hit big pothole or something, you drive it into the city, sometimes it'll blow that up. It'll blow the seal out. It can happen.
And the best way to check is the same way as the E2 is to go cycle through all the settings.
Right. And if one side's leaning more than the other side, it could be, you know, valve block issues. But on these, I feel like same thing with the transfer case. I feel like they patched that. Haven't seen many valve block or compressor faults on this. Have seen a few struts, you know, that have been blown out by, you know, big potholes or, you know, hitting the curb pretty hard. But besides that, pretty reliable system.
That's good to hear. That's a reliable system. It is really a nice feature in terms of firming up the ride, changing the ride height, having almost more than a dual personality in the same vehicle. But should one of those go bad. It is quite expensive to replace.
Yeah, you know, you're several orders of magnitude more than a traditional strut.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere in the double to triple range.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. All right, let's talk about some other areas that you want to look into. This one I never even thought about. I know it's a cool thing. It's the heads-up display, and here's what they had to say.
We also saw a heads-up display.
Yeah, heads-up
Any issues
display.
with that? Or tell us, what does the heads-up display do?
So heads-up display essentially takes your gauge cluster, moves it up into your line of sight so you don't have to take your eyes off the road. You get some basic readouts. It's not as much information, but you will get things like tachometer, speedometer, basic navigation instructions, things like that basically displayed as a hologram in front of your line of sight. I love heads-up display. Not everyone does. Some people, it kind of makes them a little queasy. Try it. That's just something you got to experience for yourself. I haven't really seen any issues.
Haven't seen any issues here. I have heard one, I don't know if it was an E3, but the heads-up display did go faulty. And to replace that, you have to pull the whole dash out.
But you know, overall, pretty reliable.
Yep.
With heads-up display, something of note. If you do need a new windshield, you do need to get a windshield from Porsche. It has a special place inside of the windshield for that heads-up display to reflect off of. So like a safe light windshield, something like that, there's a decent chance it's not going to work.
Okay.
Additionally, if you wear polarized sunglasses, that will block out your heads-up display. So if you have nice sunglasses, you can't see your heads-up display.
So you definitely want to get a Porsche windshield and make sure it has a Porsche windshield.
Make sure it has one. It's pretty easy if you want to walk over. Let's see if this one has it. If you look at the windshield right here, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, there's a little diamond with a P in it. That is the Porsche spare parts. Let me put my hand in from the back to give you some contrast. That is the Porsche spare parts logo. So any official Porsche parts are going to carry that logo. So that's a pretty easy giveaway. Just look for that little P on it.
Or I guess if you can bring it to the Porsche dealer, they would replace the windshield as well.
That's right.
Make sure that it's... I would imagine there's some calibration to be done.
Oh, yeah.
When replacing these windshields, it's not as simple as the old days. You just pop it in and...
Nope.
Yeah. So all
depending
of the
what assistance systems are installed, there will be a front camera calibration, heads-up display. I think you have to calibrate also.
Yep. And with those calibrations, a lot of those you do have to do an alignment as part of the calibration. So if you're getting a windshield replaced and someone tells you need to do an alignment, that is something that is specified in the repair guidelines, just to make sure the calibration is done straight and true and accurate. Those things are for the driver assist. You know, that's the collision avoidance, that's the lane keep, that's the things that are there to keep you safe. It's not something you want to, you don't want it crooked.
Wow, that's a lot there I didn't consider, especially with replacement windshields. And something as easy as you putting your finger behind to see the logos, that's pretty important to know that it has an OEM or factory supplied windshield for that particular option to work correctly.
Yep.
Wow. All right. Let's hear what you guys had to say with regards to lane change and lane keep assist.
Has there been any issues with the lane keep assist and lane change assist?
I haven't seen any issues from that haven't been accident related. So I mean, maybe if your vehicle has been in an accident, or if you're buying a car off of a used car lot, maybe.
Or just a lot of it is, just some people just simply don't like how the systems work. They are kind of overly protective. So like the lane keep, if you're thinking it's going to keep you perfectly straight and narrow in the dotted lines, it's not. Its goal is to prevent you from veering into the other lane, not to keep you centered in your lane, if that makes sense. So you will kind of ping pong between the two lines. The active brake, it just sees items. It doesn't know the context of what's going on around you. So you're coming down the middle, turning left. There's a car coming towards you, turning left. It doesn't know the difference. It just sees a car in front of you, so it's going to slam the brakes.
Skylar, tell me what this is.
InnoDrive.
InnoDrive.
For those familiar with Tesla's Autopilot, Cadillac's Super Cruise, that is our pseudo self-driving suite.
Okay.
Porsche is a driver's car, so ours is not quite to the autonomy of say, Tesla, but that is our version of it.
Sure. Okay, here's what you guys had to say about it.
Which brings us to InnoDrive.
InnoDrive.
Which is an option as well. And tell us
yeah,
what
so
that is.
that's Porsche's self-driving suite. InnoDrive's pretty good. If you're coming from a like a Tesla, it's not quite as advanced as what a Tesla would be. We are a driver's car. We are a man and machine as one is kind of the philosophy they're designed for. That it's not designed to replace the driver. It's designed to supplement the driver. So it's a different mindset than what a lot of your very tech-heavy cars like a Tesla would have. InnoDrive is pretty good. It'll turn signal. It'll change lanes on its own. It'll adjust the speed with the speed limit signs. It's really, really good. But just be mindful that it is a little bit different than Tesla Autopilot is the number one competitor. It does function a little bit different than Autopilot.
And the best way to check that it's working, I guess, is to actually drive it. And
Drive it, try it, turn it on.
All right, super.
Now this next option, I think most of you probably aren't even going to look for it, but I tell you what, if you have or come across a car that hasn't, if you've ever experienced it before, to me it's one of the nicest luxuries that you can have, and that is the massaging front seats. Here's what you guys had to say about that.
Massage front seats came on this generation.
Everyone's favorite.
So what does a massage front seat do?
It's just what it sounds like. You have air bladders up the back of the seat that quite literally give you a massage going down the road. Ours are actually pretty good in the realm of different massage seats on cars. A lot of higher end cars will have that. Land Rover, Mercedes-Benz will have that. In the grandeur of things, ours are pretty definitely on the higher end of how the massage feels, in my personal opinion. Overall, they're fairly reliable. Uses a similar pneumatic system as what the 18-way seats do. So we don't see a whole lot of failures. When you do, there is always a risk of it getting stuck with the massager out, which can make it very, very uncomfortable to drive. So if it does break, it's potentially pretty expensive because it's going to be disassembling the seat, stuff like that. B, it can potentially make the car pretty uncomfortable to operate until it's fixed.
I will agree with him. Pretty reliable. Very good system on there. I will say if something maybe gets binded under your seat, maybe your water bottle gets stuck under there, it could make one of the pneumatic system lines come off or pinch it. This will cause the system to not work properly, and it would just make the system make a weird sound, So something to look forward to these. Always check the massage seat system. Make sure that it works in all the settings and all the what's the word I'm looking for? Intensities, all the intensities, soft to the strongest setting that it has.
Make sure you test it for a minimum of 30 minutes.
Test for a minimum of 30 minutes, like he said. Definitely enjoy it, and always use it as the best setting when you're the passenger.
If it's going bad, will it trip any kind of code?
Not generally.
Not generally, but it will disable seat settings. So like ventilated seats and heated seats.
That's a good giveaway.
It's a good giveaway.
You may be having an issue.
Right, and you may hear some strange sounds coming from the motors that are back there. So that's something to keep an eye out for.
Now, some of you may be chuckling, but seriously, it's a very cool option. I used to think the same thing about heated steering wheels. Like, why in the earth would I want a heated steering wheel? But on a cold night like tonight, you get out to your car and the steering wheel is heated. It's a nice option to have. And so it's good to hear that it seems to be fairly reliable. I didn't even think about testing them and making sure you check all the intensities and make sure they work properly.
For as long as possible.
For as long as possible without getting charged extra.
Yes.
But if you are looking at a car that has one, test them out, because if something's broken, that could also be a very expensive fix. Finally, we want to talk about the hybrid engines. What is the hybrid Cayenne? Here's what you had to say.
So this model didn't have a diesel.
Correct.
Option, but we did have the hybrid.
We do have a hybrid.
Is there any difference between the E2 and E3 as far as the hybrid system?
The hybrid is a lot improved with the new one. They're all plug-in. There's no non-plug-in model. You can get a V8 hybrid with this guy, which is pretty cool. Very, very powerful. That's actually the most powerful Cayenne variant you can get. Additionally, you do get a substantial amount more range than prior models. Older ones, it was 6, 8, 10, 12 miles. These you can get up to 50 on full electric. So for a lot of people, this car has enough electric range to do their normal day-to-day commute to work on full electric. And then whenever you're heading heading up in the mountains, heading to the beach, heading wherever you're heading, kick it over the gas. You get the gasoline motor, so you still get that 400, 500, 600 mile range on top of the electric day-to-day use. It's a really good package.
So, for me with hybrids, I can understand the pluses, but I've always been concerned with a more complex drivetrain system.
Yep.
And you guys talk a little bit here about maintenance on hybrids.
Is there any added maintenance on the hybrid system?
Not really. It has a coolant system, but I think they specify it for like 15 years to flush the coolant.
Right.
That's really the only extra maintenance that the hybrid adds. Obviously, it does add extra complexity, so their potential for failure is higher. But I haven't really seen any issues out of these later model hybrids. Now, again, they're all still fairly new cars, but they seem really good. They drive very, very well. It's a very seamless transition from the gas to electric. It's a really good package.
All right, we're getting to the top of the hour, so I'm going to do let me call it a lightning round. Right. Popular options that you want to look after. We've mentioned some of them just a few moments ago, but I'm going to run through them real quickly. You can go back to the buyer's guide for the E2 Cayenne that we did, because the options I'm about to list off is, we talk about them in detail, and they haven't changed a whole lot between E2 and E3 in terms of options. So performance and handling options, you're talking about air suspension, we mentioned that earlier. Sport chrono package, rear axle steering we mentioned, PDCC we mentioned, and of course the Porsche ceramic composite brakes. With regards to luxury and comfort feature options, you're talking about Premium Package Plus, you're talking about Bose surround system versus Burmester, talking about adaptive sports seats, soft closed doors, massaging front seats, what we just talked about. With regards to technology and utility, you want to take a look and see if it has a surround view camera system. Adaptive cruise, we talked a little bit about. The towing package, in case you need to tow something. There's a smartphone compartment with wireless charging. That might be a convenience you're looking for. And again, massaging front seats. Heated as well as ventilated seats, depending on your need, where you live, consider that. The premium sound, again, Burmeister or Bose. Parking assist, for those of you that are parking challenged. It is a bigger car, so maybe you want to look into that. And of course, something that we tend to think that is always included with a luxury vehicle, and that is the dual zone automatic climate control.
Yep.
So folks, there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this session. I want to again thank Damon and Manny. I'll remind you, if you want to consider sim racing, race with PCA members, we have PCASimRacing.com. We can show you how to do it and learn all about our different classes and such. Of course, I invite you to check out PCA Insider, our podcast that we produce and launch a new episode every week. Our newsletters, PCA newsletters that are absolutely free. You just go to pca.org and you can sign up for e-brake news, Mark Fresh news, and performance news. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the 2019 to 2025 Cayenne Buyer's Guide, the E2. Skylar, I want to thank you, and please send my thank yous back to Alex for taking the time to educate all of us on this model. I think the takeaway is it's a fantastic vehicle, but make sure you buy the right one. And again, CPO is key, or if you're looking for a warranty, make sure you get a solid warranty, you know all the details, and buy the right Cayenne. And with that, happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you next time. We'll see you next year in 2026. And if you're not a PCA member, get to it, grab that VIN, and make yourself a PCA member. See ya.
Thanks.